Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining today's Resideo webinar session, where we are going to give you an overview of our universal part strategy, and we're also going to share a preview of our source training with you as well. My name is Jamie Quanrud, and I'm part of the Resideo Sales Training Team. And on behalf of all of us here today, I'd like to welcome you to our training session. Before we begin our technical overview, I'm going to cover just a few administrative items. Make sure that you join us each month as we provide you 2 opportunities to learn about our Resideo products. Going forward, we are going to be offering these webinars on the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays of each month. Make sure that you visit resideo.com/webinars for more information on these trainings that we have upcoming. Our next session is on the 23rd of February, and we're going to give you an overview of our hydronic portfolio. And we're also going to be giving you a preview of our new water products that we are releasing in March. And then on March 9th, we are going to be giving you your first look at our 5 new water products that are going to be available on March 1st. So make sure that you register and attend those upcoming sessions. We're excited to talk about our water portfolio and the new products that we're introducing as well. And you can find information on those webinars at the resideo.com/webinars website underneath the HVAC or plumbing tabs. And then additionally, you can find recorded sessions on the same website underneath the webinar recordings tab as well, if you're unable to attend any of our live sessions. And then just a quick note for our contractors who are joining us for today's live session, and you are interested in earning 1 NATE continuing education credit, there are just a few things to note. If you provided your NATE ID on your registration form, we submit that information to NATE for your attendance of today's live session, and we won't need any additional information from you at this time. However, if you did not provide us with your NATE ID on that registration form for today's webinar and you would like to receive credit for attending our live session, we do ask that you email your first name, your last name, your NATE ID, and the date of the session that you attended. Send an email to homes.university@resideo.com within 1 week from today. This information is submitted to NATE 1 week following the close of each session, and any requests that are sent outside of 1 week from the live training cannot be processed. As a quick reminder, we can only process requests for NATE credits when you attend the live webinar sessions, and we are unable to process requests for watching a recorded version of these sessions. If you'd like more information about the NATE program, please visit their website at www.natex.org. All right, one quick note before we begin our technical presentation today. All of our attendees are muted. However, if you do have questions during our technical overview and you'd like to ask a question, please go ahead and use that Q&A feature that is found in your Zoom webinar controls. We are saving the last few minutes of our time today to answer any questions that you may have. So as we progress through our technical overview today, make sure you ask those questions in that Q&A feature so we can address those at the end of the session. Now we're going to turn the presentation over to Antonio Casterlau, who's one of our combustion sales reps on the East Coast. Also joining us today is Rick Pothier, who's part of our Ed Oz sales team. We're happy to have both of these sales reps with us to share their knowledge of both our universal part strategy, as well as give you a preview of our source training as well. Thank you both for being with us today. Antonio, we're going to turn things over to you.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you very much, Jamie. So as we get into this session and we're starting to talk about our universal parts strategy and a little preview of our source training, there are going to be a few different topics that we're definitely going to hit on. And I want to make sure that I point out how valuable they can be to you in what you're doing as a contractor day in and day out. That's the first thing. So if you get nothing else out of this session, the most important things that I think you want to take away from this session is how valuable and how beneficial universal parts can be to you and your business, and also how valuable and how beneficial our source training can be. And that source training is actually, we'll talk about it later on and give you a brief preview of it. But that source training is done and most valuable in person. And I know that's a little difficult this time, but we've come to find contractors have found that training to be very valuable in what they do. So as we go into this, we're going to talk about, again, our universal parts, our all season universal parts, different types of ignitions, different types of our universal gas valves. Some are again, direct burner, our smart valve, and again, some are our cross-reference tools and resources that we offer here at Resideo. So the first question that comes to mind, and I always like to pose to every contractor, is why should you learn about universal parts? And the answer I quickly give them is it can be valuable to what you're doing day in, day out, because we ask these questions every day. Does it matter if my company makes money? What are some of the things that I need to do or start to do to make sure my company stays healthy? You know, different contractors operate on flat rate billing, time and material, and the impact of what a single trip versus an extra trip can do to your business, and how that can play a significant part in you being more profitable, more beneficial, flourishing, having a strong, robust business. If you take a look at this, this slide right here, and it's just really, it's very simple. This is just a demand service call example. And whether you're doing flat rate pricing or time and material, the most important part to get out of this is the difference between the effect that it can do on your business, whether you have with the part on the truck or no part on the truck, and how that can impact not only that call and how profitable you are on that one service call, but how that can compound and basically have an effect on your business day in and day out in the long run. This is a perfect example on this next slide. The impact of an extra hour or extra service call, what it can do to your bottom line and how it can affect your revenue over the course of a day, a week, a month, a year. If you take a look at this slide, you can see it can possibly, or you can easily see there's over 72,000 reasons why you need to learn and know about universal parts and how that can affect your business during a busy period, and how that can actually save and be profitable to you, because that extra call in the day can help retain a customer. So we ask ourselves the question, do you have the right part on your truck? If we think about how many different manufacturers are out there, how many different models are out there in this business, are all those parts still made? There's so many manufacturers day in and day out, so many different makes and models. And do we have the space for all the parts that are out there? And how much would that cost if we tried or made an attempt to basically carry that inventory day in, day out? And how having, universal parts plan can have a significant difference in how profitable your service company is, just by learning how to adapt and utilize universal parts day in and day out. So first, we want to take a look at our product family. I'm not going to name all of them, but a few of them that I definitely want to point out is our hot surface igniter, our oil burner controls, thermocouples, gas valves, water heater controls. These are just a handful of things that are in our product family that we offer. And more importantly, as we get prepared to go to the next slide, again, our universal replacement parts. whether it be our defrost board, our retrofit kit, our different pilots, whether it's be our standing pilot or our universal gas pilot, our thermocouples. There's just a handful of items here that can be very valuable, because these handful of universal parts can mean a lot to your business, can solve a lot of problems and solve a lot of solutions you deal with day in and day out. How about our all-season universal parts? Keeping these parts on the truck all season long. And I think what we need the first thing I want to point out when I look at this slide is our universal parts do not void the OEM warranty. I hear from a lot of contractors, they're concerned about using universal parts or using different parts they're wondering if those parts do void or do something to the warranty. Again, our universal parts do not void the OEM warranty. And as we talk about our universal parts, our integrated furnace control, the S9200, our universal electric fan timer, the ST9120, and then our universal heat pump, defrost control. So our universal integrated furnace control. So as someone may ask, what is that? What is the S9200U? Again, the S9200U provides the electronic control of the heating and cooling function of a single stage HVAC system, including the control of combustion fan and the circular fan. And I think what people the message I want to make sure I communicate, it manages the call for heat, and we see the different steps that it takes as it manages the call for heat, the sequence of operation, and it also manages the call for cooling. It can replace boards within the 80 volt igniters when it's coupled with a 120 volt hot surface igniter. We have cross-reference guides so they can be beneficial to contractors when they're utilizing this product. Also, it's a plug and play installation. So again, that saves time when you're using this universal part. And it has multiple wiring harnesses for easy adaptation in repairing or in using this application and using this product, which I think is very important. What Resideo looks to do in a lot of scenarios, and we look to provide customers with parts that can provide a lot of different solutions, easy cross references, a manual or easy information. So it's a lot of situations, it's plug and play. So you don't have to wonder, is this working correctly? Am I using this product right? We provide you with the cross reference, the information that you need to basically get it done in a very quick and a very efficient in time frame. We look at our universal electronic fan timer. What is the ST9120? Has a replaceable fuses on it, dip switch selection for heat and cooling delay, and on and off times, diagnostic LED, terminal connections, and continuous low speed indoor air circulations are provided. And again, the one thing I want to make sure I point out, it replaces over 40 OEM fan timers. This is why this is universal, because it provides a solution for a lot of different fan timers that are out there on the market. Let me make sure I point that out to you. And in this group, our heat pump defrost control, this gives you opportunities all year long. Number one, because this defrost board has time or demand defrost modes. Most of most of the boards on the market right now, they have time but not demand. And that's very important. And that's a very big benefit. On top of that, it has a dual LED display. It offers quiet mode. If you take a look at it, I'll mention it here and on the next slide also too. This board, this single stage board replaces over 260 single stage heat pump defrost controls. And then as we take a look at the next slide here, you look at the comparison, has a very compact footprint, which you can change in any different orientation. And again, I want to make sure I emphasize the AC won't work if the defrost board isn't running. And on top of that, again, this is our universal heat pump defrost board, replaces over 260 OEM and competitor controls out in the market. Rick, are you ready to take it away?
Yes, as soon as I figured out I was muted, I'm all set now. Thank you very much. Right now, we're going to talk about our gas valves. I'm going to get into gas valves. And there's three basic types of ignition. You have standard pilot, where you light the pilot light, and that stays continuous 24/7, generating power. So if there is a call from the Aquastat or the thermostat, it will allow the main gas valve to open up, and bingo, we're starting to make hot water or heat, whatever it may be. Intermittent pilot is where we don't have a pilot, everything's idle, and on a call, we have an ignition control that will start sending a spark and light the pilot. And once the pilot is proved, and you'll see that in the next slide, I'll explain that a little better, then that will allow the main gas valve to open. And again, we're producing at that point heat or domestic hot water. The final type of ignition is direct ignition. Direct burner ignition is what we call it. And what happens here is, instead of igniting a pilot, we actually ignite the main burner. Very, very popular on all the newer gas furnaces, but that's basically most units like that are hot surface ignition, and again, direct burner. Next slide, yeah. So types of gas valves you're going to see out there are standing pilot, which I just went over, that requires the pilot to run all the time. Intermittent pilot, where we're using spark ignition control. Direct burner ignition, and you're still going to see some what we call millivolt systems out there. And you can see that both the standing and intermittent and direct burner, we have universal gas valves. Now, here I'm showing the universal gas valve, and you're going to quickly see going forward what will make that. Now, what you cannot do is assume, if you have a VR 8345, that it's truly universal, because there's other factors that we really need to know when choosing the correct gas valve for the application. Is we need to complete part number, whether it's a Resideo part number or a competitor's part number. Those part numbers are designed to tell us how does that valve open, because not all gas valves are the same. You have standard opening gas valves. You have fast opening gas valves, slow opening gas valves, step opening, and two-stage. And just to give you an example, if you were on a job that had a slow opening valve, so it would be a K there, that you can see the letters. That's what indicates how it opens, an 8345K. That valve takes about 6 seconds to open 90%. what do you think would happen if you chose a fast opening gas valve, which opens 80% in 1/16 of a second? You did not match that gas valve. So pay close attention to the model numbers. Next slide. Yeah. Now, you have dual versus single valve. And I'll explain a little bit something about the dual valve. The dual valve really was put into place roughly in the late 60s and 70s. And the reason for that is those are all electronic valves. So what was happening is on a call for heat, the safety shutoff valve would open, allowing the pilot to come on. And if it was a single stage and something was under the solenoid valve or the servo valve, we could prematurely have gas going to the main burners. So like I said, late 60s, early 70s, they changed that design where they have not only the servo valve, but we added a solenoid valve. It's just added protection. Single seated is still used, with stand-in pilot, as it wasn't as critical as the electronic valves for safety. Next. All right, so the other thing with the valve opening characteristics, as I explained, you have the M for standard, K for slow, Q for two-stage, and there's other letters that pertain to the fast opening, the step opening valves. But the letter also lets us know what does the temperature that look like. In the past, we used to make, for instance, standard valves would make an 8345A, which was good down to 0. And we also offered an 8345M, which was good to -40. So, if you were doing a basement job, an A valve was fine. But if you were doing a rooftop, you'd want an M. To simplify stock, both for yourselves and the distributors, we eliminated the A and just went strictly with an M because they basically were the same valve, except we could go down to lower temperatures by doing so. Next. All right, so this will help you with the valve configuration. So if you were to, you're out there and you're wondering what valve you need, and you called, say, Antonio or myself or your local rep or even technical, they're going to ask you the part number. And as soon as you start telling the part number, we know already what you're talking about. So if you said, I got a VR83, that's already telling me I've got a dual seated valve. It is low voltage. It's the larger capacity. If you said 82, I know that the 2 just means the valve is smaller BTUs. And the 45 tells us, there's different numbers. We could have a 04, 05, and it's just telling us, is it a stand-in pilot valve, intermittent pilot, or direct ignition, or is it a universal, all right? So the 45, as you can see, that's why it's universal, is that particular gas valve covers both intermittent pilot applications and direct burner ignition applications. Next. All right, so flame detection. As I mentioned earlier, we have what we call stand-in pilot, which we call thermal flame detection. Basically what happens is the thermocouple will be heated up by the pilot. And make sure, one quick tip, make sure that the flame is in the top third of that thermocouple. Because what we're looking for, and the way the thermocouple works, is we have what they call a hot junction and a cold junction. The hot junction, of course, is at the top of the thermocouple, and the cold junction is at the bottom. And what we're looking for is a 400-degree difference in the temperature between the top and the bottom, where we're then on a standard pilot system, where that pilot will produce the 30 millivolts needed to open that gas valve. Then we get into what we call electric or flame rectification, spark ignition. Again, how that works is we have an ignition module that will send power up to the electrode. The electrode will start sparking against the burner hood and then ignite the pilot. And once the pilot is lit, that AC voltage going up, because the burner hood is 4 times the size, what's happening there is the electricity is carried through the flame, converted to DC volts, and then runs back to a ground wire to the control to notify that the control, basically there's a flame. It's a flame and it's safe to run. And at that point, your main gas valves will open up and we're producing heat. Next. So with spark ignition, we get into our 8610U, and the U indicates that it is universal. And like Antonio said, we do replace a lot of different controls. Now, the 2 key things with universal you need to know is, first, is what you're replacing listed in the instructions. So inside the box is a set of instructions. Look at it. And if your control, whether it's Honeywell, White Rogers, or whatever it is, if it's listed there, we are the replacement. And along the side of that, when you're in the instructions, it is then going to tell you how to set the dip switches. And that's, they're kind of hard to see, but they're in the lower right, a couple of little orange switches there. And it will tell you on this particular control, we want dip switch 1 up, dip switch 2 off, both up, both down. By setting those dip switches, we have matched exactly what we took off. The control is very robust. The way you see it in the picture is the way you need to mount it. Don't get imaginative and flip it upside down or sideways. It is designed that way, especially if it's around a hydronic system. This way, if water hits it, it's going to hit the top. It's not going to hit the electronics down below. We do have a set of, you'll see to the left of the dip switches, there's a couple of little brass circles. That's where you can easily plug in your meter to get the flame signal. Also, what you won't see there is an LED light that will flash. If it's flashing a heartbeat while it's running, you have a good flame signal. If the unit goes into error, it's going to flash. So let's say the error, it happens to be error 4, it's going to be 4 quick flashes. So you're going to see it will be idle. You'll have 4 flashes. It will go idle again. And right on the control itself, you look on a number of flashes and it will tell you exactly what to look for and help you diagnose the problem quickly. All right. Now, the plug to the left of those test ports, that is where, if you happen to have a piece of equipment that has an exhaust damper, that's where you're going to plug your damper in. All right. If you don't, the control is going to work fine. What does happen, if you do plug your damper into that, after 100 cycles, it will run, I mean, it's going to run 100 cycles. After 100 cycles, it's going to burn out a little fuse on the inside of the control, meaning at that point, if the damper is not proven open, it will not start. So you have to remember that if you had a control on for a few months and it ran 300 cycles and you took it off for whatever reason, thought you could reuse it, at that point, you could only reuse it on a dampered system. Okay, Antonio. I'm going to turn it back over to Antonio.
Yep. Yeah. Now, thanks, Rick.
You're welcome.
So we're talking about our universal pilot burners now, as we transition to another universal part. The days of replacing pilot burners with like for like. We're recommending customers and advising customers to move away from that. We have 4 models here that will replace over 120 legacy standing pilot and intermittent pilot burners. We have target style pilot burners that come with a 3-position adjustable hood. So the 3-position adjustable hood is left, right, and center. If we take a look at these in particular, we have our Q314, which is our standing pilot. Q345U is our intermittent pilot, along with our Q348 and our Q3451. Now the 314, the 345, and the 3451 are all target style pilot burners. The difference is the 3451 is a target style pilot burner with the integral ignition lead. And then we have our Q348U, which is our intermittent pilot, which has the 1-inch bat wing style pilot burner to it. So again, all our pilot burners come with peel and seal packaging, which provides convenient information for installation, cross-referencing, and all the packages and everything, the contents inside. And it's for use with natural and LP gas applications. So again, our universal pilot burners, 4 models, which provide over 120 different replacement opportunities. So as we get into our direct burner ignition, we have 2 sides of our direct burner ignition. First, we have our hot surface, which we have our module under our hot surface, our integrated furnace control, which we talked about, and then our smart valve control, which we will talk about. Then on the opposite side, if we look at our spark, it's our module and our integrated furnace control. And we'll talk about a lot of these items right now in particular. So first, our universal hot surface ignition control. We can cut the inventory that we have down to 1 model with the S8910U. Provides the electronic control of our direct ignition system. It easily replaces over 900 different controls. Again, we're going back to our universal part strategy and a part that can be a key in utilizing and executing on that strategy. We have the dip switches to configure the warm-up time, trial for ignition, and the pre-purge. The simplified LED that Rick talked about, which is our heartbeat for troubleshooting in the field, and our micrometer ports for reading the flame to determine, the quality of our igniter. We have our universal hot surface igniter, which is our Glowfly. It's designed to make the transition from silicon carbide very easy, because if you take a look at our Glowfly, it's a very robust, very strong, very durable 120 volt silicon nitrate igniter. It's found on dozens of manufacturers in our heating requirement. And to really start this off and really talk about what's important about this, besides the durability of the Glowfly, it replaces over 110 different igniters out there. With a 3-year warranty, it gets hotter quicker than your standard igniters, and it reduces the stock that you need on your truck with this one Glowfly. When you're doing service calls or no one wants that no heat call at night, and they don't have the igniter to go and replace and service that customer. But this one Glowfly, this one hot surface igniter, again, replaces over 110 different igniters that are out there. A benefit, again, of our Glowfly that besides the fact that it comes in single, it comes in our 6-pack. And the benefit of our 6-pack really is the cross-reference that's on the box. If you take a look at a 6-pack, you have, again, the different designs. You can locate the part numbers that you need. You pick the right bracket, as you see there, A through E, and you have exactly what you need when you're doing a replacement. So again, 6 brackets, 7 different configurations to fit most replacement applications. And again, the Glowfly, I'll reiterate that again, comes with a 3-year warranty for the Glowfly. So we talk about, again, our universal smart valve. If you take a look at this, there's over 8 million different smart valves out in the market right now. And what's unique about the smart valve, it's the gas valve and the control built into one. So again, the smart valve integrates the gas control and the ignition to one single unit. Handles both intermittent pilot and direct ignition, covers a full range of opening characteristics and ignition systems that we have, and our smart valve services and replaces all OEM models out on the market. We have our water heater gas valve. And I think the key that we want to remember when a lot of people don't think about the profitability and the benefit of the water heater gas valve. You can grow your market and grow your business in the water heater segment with just 4 different models. Again, this is a simple replacement for multiple controls on A.O. Smith, Bradford White models, and Rheem water heaters. Has a continuous status LED for up to 30 minutes, reduces customers' callbacks. And again, it's another avenue. As we look at this, the slide here, we have 10 SKUs and there's a 15 million plus installation base. So there's a lot of opportunity for replacements out there. And we want to make sure that we provide a product that gives you the opportunity and helps you go out and capture that business.
Okay, I'm back on. I want to go over quickly our R7284U universal oil primary. Really, everybody knows what an oil primary is. It's a line voltage safety control for oil-fired equipment, both used on hydronic systems and also forced air, utilizing CAD cell sensors, basically operates the burner. And if you do have an oil valve, we'll take care of that, that also. And if we go to the next slide. All right, some of the things that we do is, again, too, this is, the reason it's universal is once you get into the menu, the control is great because as you can see, nothing's partial. It's right there. If you're looking at it, it says no ignition, check igniter. It's basically going to tell you through it. So if you get into the installer setup, it's the same way. Everything is, the burner control is going to ask you a question, answer it. It's that simple. Basically, do you want the spark on during run? Yes or no? Do you want a 15-second, 30-second, or 45-second safety timing? Pick the timing you want and move on. So basically, extremely, probably the easiest control to set up out there on the market. Some of our features is we have the igniter spark detection. It will let us know if it detects the sparking, what's going on. It's going to monitor the CAD cell. It will tell us if it's starting to trend high, that it's time to call service before we have a no heat call. It will also tell us whether that CAD cell needs adjusting or cleaning. It will also monitor the flame. Do we have flame proven late in the trial? Do we have flame before trial? Did we have flame after the unit shut down? It's going to monitor all of that stuff. If the problem is not a burner problem, it's voltage, it will let you know that. And we store all the, just the last 10 errors. You can scroll through those, find out what the error was, what the error code was, and how many cycles ago it did appear. So somebody says, geez, I reset it yesterday. You go in, you find out that, yeah, it did fail, but it was 2 weeks ago. Just different things. So a great tool if you're doing oil. It's going to really save you time and point you directly to the problem, fix it, and you're not going back. Next. The next is our Oil Aquastat, the L7224U. Sorry about that part number down below. It's wrong, but it's a 7224U. And it's our complete universal. And what makes it universal is we can program this. There is a menu. We can get in and actually set this control up with different parameters. The most often is, do we want a cold start system or do we want to maintain boiler temperature? Let's say there was a tankless coil on there. We can set it up to maintain temperature or make it cold start. LED functions on it. If there's, and it will allow you to scroll through the menu. It will tell you, scrolling through what the temperature currently is in the boiler, what the temperature is set for, both high and low. If low is off, it will say off. Their LEDs will also offer us fault codes. So if you're there for a no heat call and it's an error, not in the burner itself, but somewhere else in the Aquastat, it will give you the fault code and again, send you in that direction. And the beauty is if you have this paired with our universal 7284 oil primary, we can pair those two where the error codes will show up on the oil primary. Really, really helpful. The control is also outdoor reset ready, meaning it's, if you wanted, we can, by simply adding an outdoor sensor, whether wired or wireless, we could set that control up to do, outdoor reset control of the boiler water temperature. We also incorporated in this control thermal purge, where the control, when there's a call for heat, if there's residual heat left in that boiler, we're going to purge that heat out before we fire the burner. So if the boiler is just sitting there idle at 160, 165 degrees on a call for heat, we're going to start the circulation pumps, and we're not going to fire until we bring that boiler down to about 140 degrees. Frost protection, again, too, if we notice that we've got 40-degree water, that's what it's sensing. It is then going to start cycling the pumps to get that water moving. And we also have pump cycling, which is becoming more and more important, especially with the ECM pumps. So basically, throughout the year, when you enable that function, if you have 5 days of no activity, it will start the pump for 15 seconds and shut off. And then it's going to wait and do that again in another 5 days. Okay. So basically, there's our recap. And you can see, the products I discussed and also Antonio. And, it's a very valuable tool to have on you. You just saw 11 parts, over 2,000 plus replacements that we can cover with just 11 parts. Small space on a service truck it takes. So I'll turn it back over to you, Antonio.
All right, thanks, Rick. So as we transition to give you guys a little bit of a brief preview of our source training, we want to start off with a little different, some resources, some tools that we offer. Our parts finder.resideo.com is a great resource that we encourage contractors to utilize, especially when they're looking up our parts, when they're trying to do cross-referencing. I know we're continuously working on the tool to make it better, more effective, and more efficient for contractors. And I recommend everyone to use our parts finder.resideo.com link. So our source training, I mentioned in the beginning that I would I'll bring in and start talking about a little bit of our source training and what really the content of that source training. We've trained over 35,000 technicians. And this is kind of what's involved in our source training. It's a hands-on approach, really helping technicians get their hands on our products, our universal products, as well as some of our combustion products. The training involves videos, lab exercises, and slides. And if you're interested in that, I highly recommend you reach out and you go to our homes.university@resideo.com link here. Go to that website, click on it, and please provide your information. Someone will definitely reach out to you to talk about how beneficial that can be for you when we do that hands-on training for you. And again, and they really could give you more information about our hands-on source training. The purpose of that training really is to give students a realistic experience, a hands-on experience with working and troubleshooting our gas burner control systems. We do go a lot deeper into our universal part strategy and helping people understand how profitable and how beneficial that can be for you by getting into a lot more detail with those parts. And we also go through different skills where we start to understand our sequence of operations, our troubleshooting, diagnosing problems, getting technicians hands on different items where they can definitely touch and feel different products that we do offer and help them do troubleshooting. And I think it's very beneficial. And I've gotten great feedback from technicians and contractors that have been able to attend this. What would you say about that, Rick?
You are correct, Antonio. One of the very, very popular trainings for years has always been source. That's where the technicians, they've got their tools, they've got their meters, they're plugging in wires, they're wiring something, they're seeing a flame, they're, taking gas pressures. It's just a learning experience. And I've had from apprentices to guys that been in the business for 30 years comment, this class was great. So I highly recommend reach out, get one scheduled in your area. It is going to be well worth attending a hands-on source gas training.
Yeah, if you take a look at this slide real quick, it just shows you a brief introduction of how we have contractors utilize our different products, combustion products, and they're actually wiring up what we have. They're using different controls, different ignitions, different modules to wire up a hot surface ignition. And I think it's very beneficial and can be very powerful for contractors to actually attend and technicians to attend this class. So.
Great. Thank you so much, Antonio and Rick, for walking us through that overview on our universal part strategy and for that preview of source trainings as well. And just to echo what both of them have just said, if you're interested in scheduling a source training for yourself or your customers, please go ahead and reach out to and send an email to homes.university@resideo.com, and we'll make sure to connect you with the right people to get that scheduled. Now we're going to transition into answering some common questions that we hear about our universal parts that were covered in our training session today. Just a quick reminder, if you do have any questions on anything that was reviewed today, make sure that you take a few moments and enter that information into that Q&A feature that's in your Zoom webinar controls, and we will do the best that we can to answer your questions that we have in the time remaining.
So some of our common questions are, do universal parts void the OEM warranty?
All right, so the answer to that is no, we're not going to void the OEM warranty. the key is two things. Is the control listed when the part you're taking off, is that control listed in the installation instructions as a cross-reference? If it's listed and we install it and set the dip switches according to the instructions, you have replaced an exact replacement. If it wasn't listed, no, it doesn't. It's not going to do the warranty. So you got to remember, is it listed? And did I set the dip switches properly? If you did, you're good to go. No warranty problem.
Next question is, are the universal boards focused only on heating season?
No, all our boards and controls, basically, most of them are year round. I mean, you get like the defrost board. I mean, it's on a heat pump. It's there year round. The fan timer, the integrated furnace control, they're there for, to operate the fan, any IAQ equipment that may be on there. So they're valuable. What's on your truck, I would suggest leave it on the truck year round. You will use it.
Good. How many boards will the universal furnace timer replace? Now,
the furnace timer, and if I believe the number that you had correctly was an S9120, that does over 44 both Honeywell and OEM controls out there.
Okay. And what happened to the damper jumper that used to come with the S8610?
You got me smiling on that one. And the reason I'm smiling is a question like that was not from a newbie. Years ago, when we sold the S8610, there was a jumper in there. And if you remember just a little while ago when I went over it, that white plug that I said, well, years ago, that link that I said burns out after 100, well, that link was open. So what you had to do was, it was already set up for the damper. So if you did not have a damper, inside the box was a plug, a jumper plug, and you would push that in, and it would make it run, with a unit without a damper. But we have since changed that electronically within the control. So, we didn't have to say, get the old call, well, there was none in the box, one of those. So we've modernized it, let's say. Okay. Time to go into, Jamie, a couple of the questions that came in through Q&A.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. Well, one of them here, I see it says, what if I need a longer Glowfly? Now, if you take a Glowfly and you match it up to the old, to the regular, let's say like for like, all right, our Glowfly is much shorter. It's much shorter. And I'm going to tell you the reason. On a Glowfly, the heat is at the very tip, right at the end. Now, if you took that little Glowfly and put it up against, a standard hot surface igniter, it's going to match up right around the middle of that igniter. And if you actually plugged one in, you're going to see the heat, the hottest part of that igniter is the middle. So don't be too concerned about the length of that Glowfly. It is where the heat is. It's right at the end. Hopefully that answers that one. Another one I have here is, on a gas valve, how do I select the best universal match? The answer to that is, what is the model number you're replacing? It's not that universal, as I say. They do replace a lot of them. It depends on what is the opening characteristic of that valve. As I said, if you called me and I couldn't get the whole information on the gas valve, I really cannot cross-reference it, because I don't know how that valve opens. Does it open? Is it a standard open, slow, fast, step? I have no clue. So I would I would sidestep and say, geez, I just need more information. Let's see, another one I have is a course for the training and how long is it? All right, I would say that's pertained to our source training. Yes, there is a cost to the source training. That can be, we can do that, whether it's through a company where they have, the company wants to sponsor it and have a number of their technicians attend, or we do work with distributors where, they'll absorb the cost of that and just pass it on to the techs attending. And many I've seen in the past will actually, refund that after your first purchase of universal parts. But it is a chargeable class because of the material and the cases and, transportation, stuff like that. The training roughly is about 3 to 3.5 hours. If we do a combination of gas and oil, you're looking at like a 5-hour training. Let's see, I have another one here. Do source training boards actually light? Yes, they do. We have little propane tanks, tiny little tanks that we go in, and we set them up. The only thing we ask, I know I've attended some with Antonio in the past, I've done a number of myself, is we always ask, once the students or the people there, the technicians, complete putting the case together, meaning let's say we're going to do a spark ignition and they choose the gas valve, the burner, the igniter, they wire it all up. We always ask them, when you're at that point, when you're ready, ask us to come over. We're quickly going to look at the board, make sure everything's okay, and then give you the nod to power it up.
Great. Thank you, gentlemen. I think we're going to wrap things up from here. Thank you to all of our attendees for your engagement with us on this topic. These are great questions. If we didn't answer your question, we will make sure to pass these along to your Resideo sales rep and make sure that they follow up with you and get you the answer to your questions. Thanks again to Antonio and Rick for providing a great overview of not only our universal part strategy, but also giving us a sneak peek into source training and what that can do for all of us in our businesses. I want to talk a little bit about what is featured on your screen here. We value our relationships with our contractor and our distributor partners, and training is an important part of providing real-time information to all of you. And recently we have launched an online digital training portfolio where we are publishing in-depth technical and sales training for all of our customers. You can access this training by visiting the training page on our Resideo Pro website. The first time that you attempt to visit that online training catalog, you will be asked to create an account. And then every time going forward, you'll log into your training account and you'll be able to access these trainings. Right now, we've got about 10 combustion trainings that are live and available. And then as of yesterday, we've got several T10 and Prestige IAQ online technical and sales training courses that we encourage you to enroll and take as you have time throughout your week. We've also got several humidifier trainings in there, as well as we know we're still in the thick of heating season. And we're adding more trainings every month to this online training catalog. So make sure that you check back often to get the most up-to-date training modules. And then also, if you are a Resideo Perks member, you can receive training credit when you enroll and take those online training courses as well. We're very excited to add this online training catalog to our training offerings for all of you. And then if you want to go to the next slide, Antonio, just as a reminder, we're going to continue to offer this customer webinar series twice each month. Make sure that you join us on the second and fourth Tuesdays of each month for these sessions. Go ahead and visit resideo.com/webinars underneath either the HVAC or plumbing tabs for more information or to sign up for our upcoming sessions. Additionally, we do record each of these sessions, and you can find these recordings on that same website underneath the webinar recordings tab. And then on the next slide, one last reminder to our contractors who did not include your NATE ID on your registration form. And if you would like to receive credit for today's session, make sure you send an email with your first name, your last name, and your NATE ID number to homes.university@resideo.com within 1 week of today's live webinar to receive credit for attending this live session. And then 2 final things to note. Once our training session ends today, you are going to be prompted to complete a survey regarding today's session. Please take a few moments to provide us with your feedback on the training that you participated in today. We are very interested in not only your feedback on today's session, but we also use that feedback to help us create future trainings as well. So your feedback is important. If you have ideas or suggestions for future sessions that you'd like us to cover, make sure to include that in your feedback survey as well. And then finally, you are going to receive an email from us in just a few days that includes some follow-up information on the products and the source training that we reviewed today, as well as a link to the website for information on our future webinars. We look forward to having you join us for our next training on February 23rd at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, where we are going to be covering our hydronic portfolio, as well as giving you a preview of our 5 new water products that are releasing in March. Thank you all for joining us for today's Resideo webinar session. Have a great day, everyone.